Welcome to the debate. So today we're looking at a pretty wild historical divergence. Back in 1989, right when the world is watching the Berlin Wall fall, celebrating the collapse of Soviet communism.
Right. A massive global shift.
Exactly. But in South Korea, the brightest elite youth were moving, well, the exact opposite way. They were embracing this thing called Jusepa, which is a radical, Juche-sympathizing ideology actively aligning with North Korea.
Yeah, it is a fascinating historical paradox. And that is the foundation of the text we're analyzing today, which is EP1, The Hidden State, South Korea's 50-year secret governance. It really forces an uncomfortable question for us.
It does. Basically, does this essay expose a genuine, decades-long subversion of South Korea's liberal democracy by those same pro-North Korean infiltrators, or
does it mischaracterize a totally natural generational shift in political power as like a coordinated shadow conspiracy?
Right. And to me, the text makes a highly compelling case for the conspiracy side. The systematic infiltration it describes points to a very real pseudo-democracy.
Pseudo-democracy is a really strong term, though.
It is, but think about the timeline. These radical students didn't just graduate and fade away. They traded their Molotov cocktails for suits and ties. They systematically moved into the judiciary, the media, the electoral systems, with the explicit goal of dismantling the liberal foundations built by South Korea's founding president, Sung-man-rhee.
See, the history of that 1989 movement is absolutely undeniable. But I struggle with the leap to this unbroken 50-year shadow blueprint.
Why?
Well, because what the essay describes as a coordinated weaponization of democracy looks incredibly like simple demographic gravity. Former student activists aging into the workforce, getting promoted, gaining administrative power. That isn't inherently a conspiracy.
Yeah, but
it's exactly how any society naturally evolves over half a century.
I hear that. But this isn't just about activists aging into desk jobs. The essay points to a really specific mechanism of control once they got there, which is the ballot box.
Okay, the election administration.
Right. It outlines this sophisticated corruption. They aren't just winning elections on merit. They are manipulating the underlying electoral administration. If the very people counting the votes are managing the logistics to ensure a predetermined outcome, we've crossed from, a demographic shift into what the author calls managed democracy.
Yeah, the essay definitely demands to know who truly counts the votes in Seoul, which is an incredibly provocative question. But, where is the literal predetermined manipulation? Well, the systemic control is, because there's a critical distinction here, a specific political demographic gaining systemic influence over time happens in literally every functioning democracy. That is not actual ballot subversion. Assigning a structural majority to some nefarious hidden hand feels like conflating organic political success with a vast electoral conspiracy.
You say organic, but the control outlined here operates on multiple, coordinated fronts. It's not just bureaucratic, it's deeply cultural.
Ah, the soft power argument.
Exactly. The essay argues this hidden state maintains its power by utilizing cultural soft power as a smokescreen, specifically the global explosion of K-pop.
Right, which is...
It acts as this glittering neon distraction to mask their systemic praise of ideologies that enslaved millions in the North, all while actively erasing the legacy of the South's freedom fighters. The facade itself is the mechanism.
Okay, but just think about the logical contradiction there for a second. Why would a pro-North Korean, fundamentally anti-capitalist hidden state use hyper-capitalist, globally commercialized K-pop as their ultimate weapon?
Well, because it works as a distraction.
But it over-assigns omnipotence to the Jusepa movement. Think about demographic gravity like a massive forest, right? A generation of activists aging into the culture industry isn't a shadow conspiracy. It's just the water table shifting beneath the forest.
So the trees aren't conspiring.
Exactly. The trees aren't conspiring to block the sunlight. They are just growing. We have to separate organic massive cultural exports from deliberate ideological warfare.
Okay, I see the contradiction you're pointing out, but honestly, whether we're looking at a centralized puppet master or just a pervasive, decentralized ideological alignment across institutions,
The effect is really the same.
You think the outcome doesn't change?
I do, because the fragments of South Korea's foundational history are being deliberately scattered. The urgent need remains to ask who truly holds the administrative levers and whose interests they serve.
Yeah, and my concern is that by adopting this hidden state framework, we risk viewing all institutional and cultural evolution as a mirage. That is a really paralyzing way to analyze a modern state.
That's fair, but even if we disagree on whether this is a coordinated shadow conspiracy or just massive demographic gravity, the warning light the essay flashes is the exact same. The bedrock of liberal democracy is incredibly fragile.
Oh, completely agreed. If you don't understand the foundation, you won't notice when the structure starts to lean.
Right. And we definitely won't settle the overarching question today. Listeners will just have to evaluate the evidence for themselves, especially as we look toward the text's upcoming chapters on the judiciary's specific role in this framework.
Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting one to unpack.
Definitely. It certainly makes you look twice at the mechanics of a modern democracy.